Have you ever noticed how the quietest people often carry the loudest pain? The world praises noise, loud successes, loud laughter, loud opinions, but it rarely stops to wonder about the ones who move silently through the chaos, the ones who don't announce their battles but fight them nonetheless, every single day, behind composed faces and tired eyes. We live in a world that demands perfection, but thrives on hypocrisy, a world that teaches you to smile while you're bleeding, to show up while you're shattered, to keep going even when every bone in your soul is begging for rest. And in that silence, in that unbearable quiet between pretending and breaking, is where real strength is forged. Not in the headlines, not in applause, but in the lonely corners of life where no one sees your discipline, your sacrifice, your war with self-doubt. You see, the world doesn't reward truth, it rewards performance. And somewhere along the line, we learned that being real was dangerous. Vulnerability became currency for manipulation. Trust became the stage for betrayal. And strength, true strength, became synonymous with endurance. Not brute force, not aggression, but the ability to stay composed when everything inside you is unraveling. The ability to hold your ground when the world gives you every reason to give up. But the truth is, most people don't want you strong. They want you manageable. They want you predictable. The moment you stop playing their game, the moment you stop seeking validation, stop bending your spine for crumbs of affection, stop living for other people's expectations, is the moment you become dangerous. And they'll feel it, not because you changed, but because you finally remembered who you were before the world convinced you to forget. There's power in stillness, in silence, in solitude, but there's also pain. Pain in watching people walk away when you stop overextending yourself. Pain in realizing that most relationships were built on your compliance, not your presence. Pain in waking up to the fact that loyalty doesn't mean anything to people who only valued what you could do for them. But here's the thing, every time someone leaves, you learn. Every betrayal is a lesson, every heartbreak a chapter, every ending a beginning in disguise. And while it hurts, God, does it hurt, you come out of it with sharper vision, cleaner energy, stronger boundaries. That's not bitterness, that's clarity, that's wisdom, that's growth. You begin to see through the smiles, you begin to recognize the tone behind the words. You start picking up on the energy people try so hard to disguise. You stop getting excited by potential and start respecting patterns. You stop needing closure and start trusting the silence. Because you realize that the world doesn't owe you explanations. The closure is in the disrespect. The answer is in the delay. The truth is in what people choose not to say. And instead of breaking you, that truth begins to build you. You learn to walk away without causing a scene. You learn to let go without begging for clarity. You learn to love without losing yourself. And somewhere in the wreckage of everything you once held onto, you start building something unshakable, yourself. Not the self that the world applauded, but the one that was buried beneath guilt, shame, conditioning and compromise. The one that was always there, waiting for you to stop shrinking, waiting for you to stop apologizing, waiting for you to rise. So rise, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, intentionally, powerfully. Rise without warning, rise without permission, rise for no one but yourself. Because when you finally stop chasing love that hurts, friendships that drain, and paths that suffocate, you start attracting peace, purpose, power. Not the kind of power that dominates others, but the kind that sets you free. The kind of power that whispers, "I'm not here to be chosen, I'm here to choose." And that is what terrifies them, because once you choose yourself, No one can ever use your loneliness against you again. No one can ever weaponize your empathy. No one can ever distort your identity to keep you small. You stop being a puppet in their narrative and start writing your own story. A story of silence turned into strength, of wounds turned into wisdom, of solitude turned into sovereignty. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" And the answers don't come from outside, they rise from within. From the moments you sat in darkness and refused to fold. From the nights you cried yourself to sleep but still got up the next morning. From the days you were misunderstood, mocked, misjudged, and still showed up with grace. That is resilience. That is self-respect. That is stoicism. Not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. The ability to hold space for your pain without letting it define you. The ability to feel deeply without being consumed. The ability to suffer without losing your softness. And no, the world won't always see it. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. But that's because your peace no longer accommodates their chaos. Your worth no longer bends for their approval. And your love, it no longer comes with discounts. You become the calm in the storm, the mirror no one wants to face, the presence that exposes everything they tried to hide. And for the first time, you'll be able to stand in a room full of people and feel full, not because of who's there, but because of who you are. That's the power of walking away, not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of truth, out of the quiet realization that not everyone deserves access to you. That your time, your energy, your heart, they are sacred, and anyone who treats them as disposable has no place in your future. You're not hard to love. You're just done begging for it. You're not intimidating. They're just not ready for someone who sees through them. You're not cold. You're healing. You're focused. You're free. And the world, the same world that tried to break you, will one day wonder how you became so untouchable, so grounded, so whole. And you'll smile, not because you won, but because you finally stopped playing games you were never meant to be in. That is the quiet revenge. That is the beautiful, poetic justice of self-discovery. You rise, you let go, you heal, and you never look back. And as you rise, you realize something even more profound. Your greatest power was never in being liked, never in fitting in, never in winning the approval of people who couldn't even meet themselves in the mirror. Your greatest power was in remembering that peace is not passive, it is a decision, that freedom is not granted, it is claimed, that healing is not linear, it is relentless. Every setback, every heartbreak, every betrayal wasn't there to destroy you. It was a doorway, a sacred disruption, a breaking of the illusion that you needed anything outside of you to feel whole. You begin to understand that self-worth isn't built in comfort, it's forged in rejection. In the moments when the silence gets louder, the rooms get emptier, and the path gets lonelier, you don't just become strong, you become sovereign, and people will notice. Not because you tell them, but because your energy speaks before your mouth ever does. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer explain, you embody. You no longer perform, you live. And this scares them, because the version of you they could manipulate is gone. The version of you they could guilt into silence is gone. The version of you that dimmed your light just to make others comfortable. That version has been buried under the weight of your own awakening. And now you walk differently. You speak with intention. You listen with discernment. You don't rush. You don't prove. You simply are. And being is enough. You become like water, fluid, grounded, essential. You bend, but do not break. You flow, but do not chase. You are soft, but carry force. And in a world that values aggression over awareness, that softness becomes your rebellion. That stillness becomes your edge. Because the loudest person in the room is rarely the wisest. The one with the biggest following doesn't always carry the deepest truth, and the ones who scream authenticity from rooftops often haven't even met themselves in silence. But you've been to the bottom. You've walked through fire. You've held your broken pieces in your own two hands and stitched yourself back together without applause. And that changes you, not just externally, internally. You begin to lose interest in things that once excited you, not because you're empty, but because you found something deeper, real connection, real peace, real purpose. You stop scrolling for validation and start listening to your own intuition. You stop comparing your journey to others and begin honoring your own timing. And what once felt like failure now feels like redirection. What once felt like abandonment now feels like protection. What once broke you now builds you. And here's the truth that most people are too afraid to admit. Growth feels like loss at first, because you're shedding layers of yourself that were only ever built to survive. You're letting go of identities, attachments, and illusions that kept you safe but small. And that shedding, it's painful, it's confusing, it's lonely, but it's sacred. Because every time you say no to what no longer serves you, you say yes to what aligns with your truth. Every boundary you set is a declaration that your energy is no longer up for negotiation. Every person you release is a testament to the love you are finally giving yourself. And with every step you realize you're not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you've always been. Thanks for watch. Subscribe and like.